Good day guys, how are you? Do you know that the writing module in the IELTS test is considered the most complicated one? And do you also know that most of the students who sit their IELTS test, they flunk to get the desired band scores in the writing module? Yeah, that's true. It's quite astonishing, but that's a fact. Have you ever wondered why does this happen? In fact, there are two reasons, let me tell you. The first one is, of course, the written English is altogether different from that of the spoken one, right? So, notwithstanding some students having a very good linguistic proficiency in terms of their spoken English, they just can't do justice to their writings, right? Because that's different. That's altogether different ball game. And the second reason why this happens is because there are certain skill sets that you need to master in order to write an impeccable essays, right? And for me, it's virtually impossible to explain all those skills in one go, in one video. All right. So what I'm trying to do here is we'll probably be telling you how to approach an essay using a PowerPoint presentation. And I'm sanguine that if you attentively watch that video, by the end of the video, you will have a fair idea as to how to approach an essay, right? So without wasting time, let's get to that PowerPoint presentation, right? Right? So the topic is, and I'm going to read this topic for you. It says, the fossil fuel is depleting at a very fast pace. Besides, it causes global warming. It is therefore essential to find an alternative. To what extent do you agree? Right? So that is the topic for you. Okay. See, the first thing is we must identify the key words in the topic. All right? It's important that we understand what are we being asked to write. All right? And in order to do, it is essential that you separate the topic words from the task words. Most of the times in the topic, you'll find there will be the topic words as well as the task words. Topic words are there to maybe give you an idea as to what the topic is, and the task words direct you to write. They tell you exactly what you're supposed to write. So it's very important that we separate the topic words from the task words. So all right, first of all, let us find out the keywords. So this is the topic, and the keywords are written in the red. The fossil fuel is depleting at, the global warming, find an alternative. So these are the keywords in the topic, right? Now let us separate the topic words from the task words. As you can see, these are the topic words. Fossil fuel is depleting at a fast pace. Besides, it causes global warming, right? So that's the topic, but we don't have to write a lot on these topic words. They are just for our comprehension of the task. Okay, so these are the task words you can see in the slide. It is therefore essential to find an alternative. To what extent do you agree or disagree? It's an agree-disagree essay, and what you have to tell whether you think it is important to find an alternative or it is not. So this is what the task words are. Now, what we have to do is we have to just look for an idea, and there are two basic approaches that we can follow. We can follow either of them, right? So the first approach is the controversial approach, right? We go in for the controversial approach when we don't have a lot of ideas to prove our point or to write 250 words, right? Because when we follow the controversial approach, it gives us an opportunity to talk about both the perspectives. What I mean to say here in this context is, you can always say, yeah, it is essential to find an alternative, and you can take the other perspective as well. It is not essential to find an alternative. So that way, it will become a controversial, and when it becomes controversial, you can always talk about both the perspectives. So you won't have to actually rack your brains in order to get an appropriate ideas to prove your point, right? Right, let's proceed. So, as I've told you maybe in earlier videos, that in order to write an effective introduction, it is important that you should be able to form a hook and a thesis statement, right? Hook is the first sentence of the introduction. It is the beginning, right? And what you can do is you can always form the sentence on your own. You can probably borrow it from some other sources, or that's it. That's what you can do, right? In this case, what I've done is I have myself constructed a sentence here that goes, indubitably, not only are the reserves of the fossil fuel in the womb of the earth getting scarce, but it is a major contributor to the destruction of climate also. All right, let me give you one more very important tip here. If you're not able to get any idea about how to write a hook, what you can do is take the topic words and rephrase it and prefix the word like indubitably or there's no denying the fact. So what you're doing is you're agreeing to the topic, and that will serve as a hook, okay? All right. As far as the second approach of writing essay is concerned, where you have ideas to prove your viewpoint, the hook should look like this. Although some people argue that fossil fuel cannot be replaced, so you can always start in the second approach, the first sentence, which is a hook, of course, with a concession clause, right? So what will happen is, in terms of the concession clause start, where you have only one idea to follow and prove it, you can give your opinion there and then in the thesis statement. Like, I think it is of utmost importance to look for the alternative sources of energy, and there are 3 reasons that convince me for this. All right, if you actually are focused on this, you'll understand that in this thesis statement, when we are taking the second approach, where we are not going to talk about both the perspective, it is lucid that we are making it important to look for alternative sources of energy. And there are different reasons that we're gonna discuss why do we think so, right? But in case of the controversial approach, the thesis statement would look like this. Whether or not alternative sources of energy should be looked for is a mood issue. See, I've made it controversial. So what it does, it is because of the contrasting views which this essay intends to dwell upon. So now, because it has contrasting views, we'll get an opportunity to talk about both the viewpoints. So thereby, we'll not have a dearth of ideas, right? Okay. So that would be the complete introduction in case if you follow the first approach, which is, of course, controversial. So let me read it out for you. Indubitably, not only are the reserves of fossil fuel in the womb of Earth getting scarce, but it is a major contributor to the destruction of climate also. Whether or not an alternative source of energy should be looked for is a mood issue because of contrasting views, which this essay intends to dwell upon. So here's a complete introduction if you're following the controversial approach, right? And in case you are taking the second approach, the complete introduction would look like this. As you can see, it starts with a concession clause, and then emphatically you prove your viewpoint. So it goes like, although some people argue that fossil fuel cannot be replaced, I think it is of utmost importance to look for the alternative sources of energy. And there are 3 reasons that convince me for this, which I intend to discuss in upcoming paragraphs, right? So it starts in telling. Now you're stating that you believe in alternative sources, and there are different reasons which, in fact, compel you to think so, which you'll be discussing in the upcoming paragraphs. So that's how you write introduction following each of these approaches, right? Okay, now let's get to the body paragraph. In fact, it's important on our part to write at least 2 body paragraphs, right? In terms of the controversial, it is important that we take the first viewpoint, which is not very much convincing, and we are not going to conclude in that way, right? However, it is important that the language should be immaculate, right? It is important that we write impeccable. And the best way to start the body paragraph, as you can see, is to start it with the topic sentence. And this is a controversial approach, mind you. All right? the topic sentence should be very, very clear, all right? You don't have to make it very complicated looking, because it is the sentence that tells the teacher what you're going to write, right? So it should be simple. And this is the topic sentence. Need of alternative source is indispensable. Okay, so now let us extend this idea. When we got the central idea in the topic sentence, it is imperative to extend that idea. I've done it here for you, and let me read it. It is evident that energy crisis is looming large, and one of the most severe problems that the world is facing today is energy shortage. So that is an extension of the central idea, right? Next, what we do is we support the idea, right? Our idea is, of course, that there should be alternative sources, okay? So this is how we're going to support the central idea. So the first supporting detail is, it is believed that these sources are not going to last for more than half century if we continue to exhaust them the way we are exhausting them now, right? And then there is a second detail. Measures are already afoot to find alternative sources of power like wind energy and solar energy, but they are inadequate and therefore can't be relied upon entirely, right? Once we've done it, it is important that we conclude, right? The body paragraph 1. So this is how we've concluded this. Nuclear energy, however, may be the answer to this gigantic demand of energy. All right, so this is how you write the body paragraph 1. I hope this video would help you a great deal to understand how you can approach your essays, right? So what I want you to do is, probably you write the second paragraph the way I've taught you here, and maybe in a couple of days I will shoot another video containing the second body paragraph and the second approach as well, when we are not going to dwell upon both the perspectives, how we do that as well, all right? Till then, enjoy yourself and stay connected. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much. Enjoy yourself.